I'm Morgan Fogarty at Bank of America Stadium. Jerry Richardson tells me he has never before done a one-on-one television interview until now. He often replies to Panthers fans' emails, letters, and phone calls, but says now he wants to reach out to even more of the people who support the Carolina Panthers.
I'm beginning to understand that they do want to hear from me. And I haven't done it very often in the past, but in hindsight, that's probably a mistake, but I'll try to do better.
What do you say to the people who criticized what was going on with the Panthers last year?
Well, I can see where the criticism was warranted. We let them down, and hopefully the changes we made are going to produce a result that will not be something that we have to deal with. We feel terrible when we don't meet the expectation of our fans. When we think about Morgan, people drive here from Wilmington or Beaufort or Charleston, and we lose, and they have to drive 4 hours home. It's just miserable to think about what they have to endure, because I know it's difficult on me, and I only drive 7 miles. And if there's any one thing I do not like about owning the team is when we lose and the people travel all this distance and we let them down.
And despite the low points of last season, Richardson always finds this silver lining.
Perhaps the thing that gives us the most pleasure, or gives me the most pleasure, is the number of people that write or make contact with me that the only time that their family really gets together is to come to a Panther game, and I'm amazed at how often that happens. And that's probably one of my greatest joys.
The end of the NFL lockout made last week one of the busiest in Panthers history. Core players like D'Angelo Williams and Charles Johnson were re-signed. New faces like tight end Greg Olsen and QB Derek Anderson were added to the mix. There were even whispers about a possible reunion with a polarizing ex-franchise quarterback. And of course, the surprise decision to part ways with the last remaining original Panther. Can you talk about the decision to release John Casey? A lot of folks had maybe hoped that he would retire, the last original Panther.
Well, obviously that was very difficult. John has been a great team role model here in the locker room and the community as well. And I guess that was one of the most difficult calls I've made since I've owned the team. And I expressed our appreciation to him. It was a very cordial conversation. He wrote me one of the nicest notes I've ever got from a player, actually, that we released from the team. I hope he'll stay in the community, and it was very, very difficult. But that's part of the decisions we have to make in all of professional sports.
What do you think was maybe the driving force behind that decision?
Number one was the fact that he could not kick off and kick field goals to the way we would hope, and we have a kicker that can do both of those, so that means we have another roster spot, and the typical fan won't appreciate how important that is, but that adds another person that hopefully will excel on special teams, punts, kickoffs, and that sort of thing. I hope he's going to stay in the community. Of course, I don't know what he'll want to do professionally.
Steve Smith recently said that he wanted to be a Panther for life. What is your goal for Steve Smith?
Well, I want Steve to do the very best he can as a player on the team. Steve he and I have had some ups and downs through the years, but I think he and I are on the same page at the moment, and I'm hopeful and confident he's going to have an outstanding year.
You once famously told Julius Peppers that he needed to step up and be a leader. He's gone, Jake is gone, Casey is gone. Who do you consider to be the team leader?
I think we have multiple. Thomas Davis is definitely one. John Beeson is clearly one. D'Angelo, I think Jonathan Stewart would be. Jordan Gross is. Ryan Khalil would be, I'm sure. I think James Anderson can be. I believe Charles Godfrey can be. We just have, fortunately, Morgan, we may have more team leaders than we've had since I've owned the team.
Too many leaders? Too many opinions?
I don't think Coach Rivera's, I think he can handle all those various opinions. I don't know if you met him, but I don't think there's any question who's in charge, and he is.
I've heard a lot of speculation or talk from Panther fans about the possibility of bringing back Jake Delhomme in a mentoring sort of role or a coaching role to help the young quarterbacks, Cam Newton and Jimmy Clausen, come along. Is that a possibility?
We never know what's going to happen, but at the moment we have Derek Anderson here, and that's a decision that Marty and Coach Rivera make. I really don't get into those kind of decisions.
Would you say that character is still the #1 priority with your players, or is there a shift to focusing more on athleticism?
No, I don't think we'll ever shift from character. It'll always be #1.
How do you think 1 year from now people will look back and describe the 2011 Panthers season?
Well, I hope what they're going to do is first I hope they're going to see we did what we said we were going to do, hopefully. And the fact that we've signed so many of our free agents, that those men, you have to remember, had an option. They didn't have to stay here. They could have gone somewhere else. And I think they're going to produce at a very high level, and I think they'll see that the plan we have is going to work.
This was the scene earlier today at the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio. NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell and Players Association President DeMaurice Smith ratified the new 10-year labor agreement. This moment put an official end to nearly 5 months of intense collective bargaining negotiations. And Panthers owner Jerry Richardson played a major role in the process. Was there ever a time over the summer that you thought the lockout would not end, or that it would affect games?
Well, we began planning in May of 2008. I would suspect, I'd be surprised, Morgan, if anybody was ever prepared for the potential of a lockout, and labor negotiations are very intense. And in my judgment, the side, so to speak, that's the best prepared is likely to end up with the best result. And we could not have been better prepared. I
want to read you a quote from Mr. Goodell yesterday when he was at training camp, speaking about you. He said, "He helped us manage a process that's not always simple. He had to keep 32 clubs informed, and he had to consider a lot of things. He had to keep them united, and he did that. He worked tirelessly to do that, including calling owners on a daily basis to make sure they knew where we were in negotiations. And when you do that and keep people informed, you will be successful." And that was because of Mr. Richardson.
It's a little awkward because it was a collaborative effort, and things don't get done by just one person. Probably what helped me, I think, Morgan, and this really started for us in May of 2008. I don't think any owner that I ever spoke to could say I said one thing to one owner and something to someone else. And when you have as much contact as I had with the owners, I had to really be alert at all times that I didn't misrepresent myself one way or another. And that required a lot of concentration and energy. We had a 10-person committee, and all of them had to do their job. And then we had 22 owners that entrusted the committee and me as co-chair of the committee to do the right thing. And I think my particular role might be overstated.
Do you feel like you have to, since the lockout ended, do you feel like you have to mend fences with any of the players?
No, not players. The players were terrific. There was one story that came out early about a conflict between Peyton Manning and me, and that's one of those things that was very frustrating to me because the person that reported it wasn't in the room. And when I heard it, I called his father Monday morning, mid-morning, and I said, "If I've offended your son, I apologize." And he almost wouldn't let me finish. And he said, "Peyton has already called me, and he's ticked off that that was presented the way it was. And he has a very high regard for you, and I know you do for my son. I hope you don't worry about it."
What is the impact of the CBA on the Carolinas?
Well, one of the things that's made the NFL so great in our judgment is the fact of competitive balance. And this agreement allows competitive balance with all teams, assuming the teams make the right decisions. We aren't handicapped economically, and if we fail, it's not for economic reasons, it's for we made poor football decisions.
Facilities across the league were officially unlocked last week. Training camp is underway, and optimism is back at Bank of America Stadium, including one major upgrade for the players.
Well, one of the things that we felt would be important is that the lockout, the players would be coming back, obviously. And this is a tangible thing that they can see that we've invested to try to make their workplace better.
What were some of the changes that were made to it that you asked for specifically, if any?
I wanted it to be totally different, and I didn't care how they did it. And we had several architectural firms work on it. And when you see it, I think you'll see it's clearly a Carolina Panther locker room. It incorporates some of the values of our team, and it has a feature in there about Sam Mills. We don't have that up yet. And the equipment is Panther colors. They had a identical color scheme that they had to match, and that was what I call Panther blue. So it's be no question that it's a Carolina Panther weight room, and we did it. And most of the players know we are doing something, but they actually hadn't seen it, and those that have pretty excited about it.
Mr. Richardson gave me a tour of the new weight room, which includes two very important symbols that influence everything that happens in the Panther organization.
Morgan, I never talked to the organization that we don't show those two charts. And it's the foundation of everything we do. I started writing that on napkins with a felt pen when I was 25 years old. I've rearranged the order, but that's crucial for the way we've always operated our business, and we don't ever deviate from it.
How critical is it for Panthers games this year to sell out? How important is that for your organization and for Charlotte as a community?
Well, I would say if I had to rank one thing that's most important, that we have to sell out our games. The cost of going to an NFL game or any professional sport, as you know, Morgan, is expensive. And we have over 2 million people that watch our games, and if the games are blacked out, they can't see them. We have an obligation to our sponsors. We have an obligation to our networks. We have an obligation to your station you work for to sell games out, because obviously if we don't, then I don't know what you're going to show in our place. But I suspect it wouldn't do as well from an audience point of view as we do. It might be our number one business objective, and I think it reinforces and does what we hope our team will do, and helps bring the Carolinas together.
How important is it for you to keep ticket prices the same for this community?
Well, we try to keep them affordable at all times, and this year we did not increase the price of the tickets. But I think it's a misrepresentation to our fans, or an expectation. We'll have to increase ticket prices because contractually our costs go up. But hopefully we can do it at a modest rate.
How is your health?
I feel good. I think I've been through a fairly difficult energy required assignment lately, and I think I've done okay.
How critical has Mrs. Richardson's role been, especially during the past few months with the lockout, in being your support and your sounding board at home?
Well, it starts way back before that. I think back, I can't imagine someone that could be a better mother. She's always supported me in business. She is attractive, she's courteous, she's polite, and she's been a tremendous asset to me, in particular when I was sick.
Is there anything that you do now, exercises that you do, or diet changes that you have? People are so curious to know how you're doing since you had the heart transplant.
Well, we'll get back to the CBA again. I haven't had a lot of options for exercise. This is it's literally since May of 2008, I guess I've almost been consumed by it, because I thought it was so critical for the NFL. Surely knew it was critical for the integrity of the league and protecting what I call the shield. And I just put myself second as far as taking care of myself, but I'm going to do better now. I took a nap before I saw you today. When I leave here, I go home. I don't hunt, fish, play golf, yacht, jet. I stay here or I go home.
How important is family to you?
It's very important. I live a very boring life.
Will we ever see the big cat on Twitter?
Morgan, I don't think so. That was an interesting question. I don't think so.
At the big cat. You could tweet your own updates.
Morgan, I'll let you tweet them for me.